Welcome, everybody. As many of you knew, I was going to be doing an interview with an old friend of mine from my former playing football days, Chris Peterson. He was a wide receiver when I played with the Rams and was one of the most instrumental people in helping me learn the system, learn football, and overall learn how to integrate myself into the culture of locker room because I had never been involved in it before that point. I've always wanted to be a part of it, but it was never my thing in terms of my abilities didn't match my location that I wanted to be. So when I decided to step out of my comfort zone and go play football at the ripe age of 30, I encountered Pete. And Pete became one of those people that that's what we call him, Pete, Petey, uh, over the last name. Anyway, I digress. Um, Pete took me under his wing and showed me the ropes and was very, very, very instrumental in me learning to love the game and learn it at the same time. He was willing enough to come on and do an interview with me because he has a project working on right now that will be more of a uh, life coach kind of thing, but from the direction of Christ being your life. And from there, being able to branch out to do the things that you might want to do in life. So I want you to pay attention to the interview, and he's going to give you some information about his program at the end and where you can find him. I do hope that this video will be a blessing to everybody who sees it. So please welcome Chris to the show and enjoy it. I've been keeping track of your Instagram stuff,
Hmm.
and I had questions, and I was hoping you'd answer them because I do want to see your stuff get out there.
Uh-huh.
Because I know there are people that do these self help, and they do the, oh, I want to give people a motivation, but they always do it from the aspect of you're the goal, you're the only one, it's you, all about you, but you're doing it from a perspective of, yeah, you're the one doing it, but God is the actual catalyst for what you're doing. And
It's
so
true.
my questions were along the lines of how do you go about incorporating what people might see as a you thing and finding a way to get God into that.
I think that it just, where you lead by example of through, you want to work with God through you.
Mm-hmm.
So when I want to share, your stories and showing that the adversity of the you go through the adversity, and then once you go through that and come out the other end, you got to look at the bigger picture of, okay, I went through all that, I'm a stronger person now. It's just like, okay, let's keep going, let's it's really just how you look at the bigger picture of yourself and where you started and where you're becoming, and the whole process is, it's the journey, it's the process of what you've been through, the trials and tribulations of growing through those hard times and becoming a better person
Mm-hmm.
as you go along with life. And for me, wanting to share the gospel to ensure people, like, you have a backup, you have him that will be alongside you and support you and love you and care for you and know what's best for you as you believe and have faith and trust in him as that journey goes along. And when I'm trying to implement with what I'm trying to do with myself, is sharing my story to, not so much be what do you call it, just an example, but I'm not a greedy person, I'm not a self, hey, this is about me, whatever. It's about the person that I'm wanting to help, because I just want to see them succeed in their story and their line. Like, what do you want to accomplish in your life with Jesus,
Mm-hmm.
you know and what greater gift for me to see them succeed and grow and have that relationship with God is so fulfilling for me, even though that I wasn't really a part of it, but yet I can find them a way through what I'm trying to do with myself,
Hmm.
as I grow. So I don't know if that kind of answers your question a little bit, but that's where I'm wanting to try to go. And there's more to that as well.
Yes, obviously. I do remember. Um, I remember when I was playing football with you. I had no idea what football was about because I remember deciding one day at my old age of 30, 31 almost, decided to go and pick up gloves and try and play young. Um, and not even knowing what locker room culture was about. That
Hmm.
was my biggest obstacle. I don't think my physical stuff I can work on and do, but the mental space between never having interaction with multiple people in a masculine setting
Hmm.
um, was difficult. But people like you, Joe, Anthony, and Jed kind of came along. But you more than anyone else was one of the people that kind of came alongside to help me not just learn the sport, but
Hmm.
learn how to interact with the guys, not just on the sidelines, but in the locker room. So I
Hmm.
do remember that being one of the most impactful things for me, and it kind of linked me to. You may not have known this, but it kind of I looked up to you a lot as a mentor for that particular situation, even though I was older.
Hmm.
Um, and so now that I'm seeing what you're doing in your time now, it made sense that that's the route you would go because it seemed like that was the kind of person you were for forever. And I don't think you were doing it to be seen that way. You just that was just who you. It came across so genuine, like, all right, you need help learning football. All right, cool, let's learn football. And there was no demand on me to do it a certain way, like you. You taught me what I needed to learn, and then you let it happen, even if the failure, and you didn't come after a failure and try to rub in, well, you you could have done, hey, no, good job, man. The next time you'll get it, that kind of thing. And I remember that specifically, it stuck in my head.
Hmm.
Um, and now that I'm in this position in life, I do attribute a lot of it to your standing in that gap because if you may not have known this, but I was very suicidal back then, like
Hmm.
extremely suicidal. Um, and for me it was a matter of not having anybody in this area of my life that would be um, someone I could reach out to. Even though I never did, I felt like if I needed to at that point I could have, and it
Hmm.
wouldn't have been a rejection kind of thing,
Right.
so it made sense that you would go to the route of helping people understand that failure is part of success. Success is the end goal, but what you might, and I saw this, and this was the first one that led me to want to do this, that one of the videos you put up was success is part of the, so failure is part of the road of success.
Hmm.
Um, and I don't think people incorporate that enough into the Christian walk. I think we've been sold a bag of goods of it being hunky dory, and once you become a Christian, everything's going to be it's awesome, and just you're going to get all kinds of blessing. It's almost like you get a good job and you have these massive perks. Um, do you have or ever encountered people that are reluctant to accept either the help one or are seeing that help as something as impossible for them to get to their goals even though you're helping them?
I think when it's weird how when I try to put out content or anything like that, it's funny where when I put out my story and how relatable that can be for others, it's just to a point where, okay, this is where I'm at. Where are you at? Okay, we have similarities. Let's talk about them. And for me, in the gosh, it's been at least 10 years plus where I've always been a problem solver of problems, whatever they may be,
Hmm.
relational, spiritual, physical, whatever, let's look in it, let's dig deep and trying to fix it, and relating to people that have gone through hard times. That for me is the solution of trying to fix whatever they may be. It could be just as easy as, like when you and I, we would sit there and we would talk. Just that communication can uplift somebody so dramatically from a place, just as much as what you've gone through, as well as other people, of just saying, hey, you know, let's have a good practice, being being motivated positive through that time, to saying, dude, it's going to be okay,
Hmm.
let's keep going. And just that little talk can get them to transfer their mindset into something driven,
Hmm.
going forth. And I mean, when people have those failures, it's just a different type of transition for you to the look outside the box to see what else. There has to be another alternative, there has to be something else that you can do, like in a lot of different ways. Again, physically, mentally, spiritually, finding the answer in a book, looking online, doing all those kinds of things, of saying, you know what, I looked at it, I read it, that makes sense, okay, now let's implement it,
Right.
you
Right.
know and it just, and for me to have a full wholehearted heart to caring for somebody that is going through a hard time makes me want to help them, to saying, this isn't about me, this is about God's plan for that person, and what he has planned, look like what he has planned for you, and
Hmm.
let's look deep into that.
Your logo, Invincible Identity.
Mhm.
Um, I have a a question one about it. I really like the concept of it.
Mhm.
Um, do you drive home the point that that identity is hid in Christ, or is it, or do you use that as the latent message and reach out to them first in trying to find out what they've been trying to find as their identity? What's your process for getting them to that? Because I look at people like David Goggins, right?
Mhm.
As motivational as he is, I think he has a trash way of doing it, and I think his intention might seem good to people, but it's a
Mhm.
very selfish intention, and it leaves people in a very selfish location because he doesn't know anything about the ways it. From what I've heard him say and what he's been pushing, the same. I associate him as a healthier version of Andrew Tate. Okay, the neither one of them are really helping you to foster your spiritual world. They're
Mhm.
helping you foster your financial means and how and even their idea of masculinity is so skewed that it's difficult for me to think that they're actually helping people.
Mhm.
Um, how do you get them from this idea of looking at life as a selfish thing and identity to a invincible mindset that it's a God identity? What's your process for getting them from? I know you said you talk to them and you get, but how do you get? At what point do you get that transition into their head, or do you initiate it right away?
I think that when I start to talk to people, and you know, this is fairly new, not only for others but for myself, because I've just started trying to get that out there for people to understand the idea of this invincible identity, and basically kind of breaking down to talking to them. It starts with identity in Christ, but also the motivation of getting to that point through that, of going through that way. And when I talk to people, it's just like, you go in, you're hanging out at a restaurant with your buddy, and it's just smooth talking. Hey, how's it going? What have you been up to? Just the relaxing, laid back, um, bro talk of catching up. What's
Right.
going on, your what's going on with your life. Is there difficulties, is there struggles, and or is there goods or bads, whatnot. And again, I just sit there and I'll say, okay, well, again, I love you, I'll do what we can to get you through this. And then from there, if they're willing to accept to move forward with that concept of trying to do with them, then it feels like it's really natural for me to have them see it and then buy into it.
Hmm.
And then once they see that example that I'm trying to portray out there for others, that it's like, okay, well, this guy is for real. Like, he cares about me. He's putting in the effort to talk to me, understand me, where I'm coming from. And it's this is like the I don't know, it makes, I hope it just has them understand that this is your stability, this is your strength, this is your uh understanding that where you get your strength from for yourself, and it comes within, not just because you're wearing the brand or whatever, but it's just to where you have to find it, you dig deep inside, and then I'm just there to kind of get you on the right path for yourself. And then you know what then eventually you hopefully will get to that point of having that relationship with God. And then it's like a full circle of me having that, it's better to give than receive, in that sense of, for me, it's like, I don't want anything from you, I just want you to be happy, in that way. So
Yeah. Do you ever encounter people who are initially wanting to do something, but then become reluctant once you introduce the God factor to it?
I think that there's been a couple of times where they have, where I've had close friends that aren't on that avenue, but they understand where I'm coming from and what I'm trying to do.
Hmm.
And I'll still love them up, and I'll still talk to them and whatnot, because that's just another opportunity. There's other opportunities, and I'm just waiting for those moments to where, when they really see the deeper process of what I'm trying to do, and then they see it, it's like, it's okay, let's I think I'm starting to get it. And so hopefully with them trying to see what I'm trying to do, it will come naturally to them. They're like, you know what, he's very positive, he's outgoing, he wants to do this to help people, and he's not doing it out of selfishness and whatnot. But hopefully that's my goal. I
Hmm.
want people to kind of go that route. I mean, what Christian doesn't? That's what our one of our purposes is.
The verse that came to mind was, some water, some sow, and some will reap.
Hmm.
And I think in your mission for this thing, you'll probably see all three of the gamuts come to you, where some people are just seeds; they have not even been planted. There are some people who are ground waiting to get something planted in them, and there are some people who have had something planted in them, and you're just the one that's watering it. And then there might be some that have already been watered, and they're just there for you to see the harvest.
Hmm.
Um, you have to, I would think, has to maintain a constant connection to God too, in order to do what you're doing, because I'm sure you've run into negative people that almost feel reluctant to let go of the negative, either because they've been inundated with their negativity from birth, from family, from circumstances, or they are in despair to the point where they don't think anything can take place. How do you keep them from influencing your walk?
I think it just comes back to knowing where I come from and what I've been through, and it's just kind of bringing it back, for me, of I don't even have it with me, but my daily routines of, you have your daily breads, you're reading the Bible on a constant battle, on a constant day, every day, all those kinds of things. And not saying that I'm perfect to where I do those things all the time, but it kind of brings you back to like a reality check of, what, this is what I want, this is where I'm going to go. And my mindset to coming back to where, these people aren't in their right mindset to accept it. So then it's like I'm trying to get to where that's not a reflection on me, that's a reflection on them, to what I'm trying to do, and I don't hold that against them to where I'm just centered. Like I want, this is who I am. This
Hmm.
is who I'm gonna be. This is who is gonna be constant. And when just an example of like where you and I and we, that is me when I, will go out and, like when we met up the other day and I saw you and I was just like, that is my heart. That is who I am. And that is that constant. That is the unchanging of me, of who I am, regardless of whatever's going around the world around me. I want to be a good example for them so they can follow Jesus. That's the whole thing. And
Hmm.
so when they want to see that, I'm going to tell them about that, but I'm not going to gloat into that.
Right. That,
So,
that's that invincible mindset.
mhm,
Yeah. Um, I've noticed too, doing what I've been doing is that you'll find a lot of people saying, um, why should anybody listen to you? Is you act like you have it all together. You act like you're perfect. And I say, well, in my mind, I'm thinking, well, Christ is, isn't he? So, and he put me in him, and that's my identity. It's not that I'm perfect and that Marlon Brown is perfect. No, I'm not.
right.
But Christ is. And if I'm supposed to put on his identity, then I don't need to worry about whether you think I am or not. That has nothing to do with my actions because my actions would never match up anyway. It has nothing to do with my history because my history is trash anyway. And it
Mhm,
has nothing to do with where I'm going because he's the one in charge of it. That invincible mindset, like you're talking about, is not of you or me. It's instilled because Christ got a hold of your heart.
absolutely.
And so for your mission, you have I think what you have is a special niche that not many men that encounter God pursue, but you also have a niche that men who are doing the same thing you're doing aren't utilizing.
Mhm,
A lot of them I see are telling people they can do it because they can do it. It's you, and you're doing it from the correct perspective of yes, you are the one physically doing it,
mhm.
but your gumption and your just backbone and your stabilizing force is God. Um, of all the interactions you've had with people, do you find, and I'm going to say I find this more often than not, do you find it that the most broken people are sometimes the most motivated to stick to the course,
That is a great question. When you say to the course to
to release the old mindset and to adopt an invincible identity? Because for me, like I said, what you did for me
Mhm,
was get me out of the woe is me mindset. And
mhm,
you didn't even try to do it. It wasn't like, "Hey, you're suicidal. I'm going to get you out of that." You there wasn't anything like that. It happened because you didn't know anything about. Nobody on the team knew anything about me to that
mhm,
point where they could think, "Oh, something was wrong with that kid." Because I always came with a, I put that persona out front. But I felt when speaking to both you and Z that this idea of I can actually kind of be me around these guys, not me as in the bad me, but vulnerable, and I can ask him questions and it not be ridiculed, like, "Oh, you don't know that? Well, you don't know that? Like, how do you not know that? And you're playing football?" Because I got that from a few of the guys. Like, how you made the team if you don't know that? How do you not know that? And
mhm,
but you weren't that. You were like, "Oh, that's easy. I can help you out with that. Little, put it down there." And I was like, "No questions, no judgments, no nothing. Okay, cool." Then I would say, "Well, maybe I can bring something even more trivial to him." And I bring something more trivial, and there was the same response over and over.
mhm,
Um, but you have this concept about your program that seems that no one else is having, and I'm trying to figure out why it hasn't gotten much more traction. And it's not because you're not putting content out. I do have a concept about why. We're in a time frame where God is on a back burner,
mhm,
or if he is on a burner at all, it's lots of syrup being cooked in it and it's all sugar and it's not real. You're trying to give people meat, and it's very difficult to break through what the world has done to a lot of people, which is give them instant gratifications to their problems.
right.
um, do you think that your mission, and I know it's not, no, mind you, I know it's not a numbers game, I fully understand that,
Mhm.
but do you think that your mission is of a more tedious nature simply because of how perverse the nation, and the world is today?
Um, like, explain to me a little bit what you mean by in tedious
So
of
do you find it harder to get the people to listen to about the God thing because of how crazy the world is now?
I think in a way, for me, of what I've seen and what I've, talked to people, I think it's a lot easier for me because again, I can relate to a lot of scenarios of, just like you and me have gone through a lot of stuff through our years.
Hmm.
So when I encounter with these people, when I do, it, like I said, it's an instant connection of relation, like, commonality of, hey, he's got this content, I'm going through that, and that's where we can relate to our stuff. And for me and what I've gone through, it's for me, and like you just said, it's not about the number for me. I mean, if I can have one person, just like they say in the church, it's like, you know what, I can have a million people or one person, and if I can get one person to, go, become a Christian, then my day is done, in that sense. So, but what I've gone through when I talk to people, it seems it's very natural, of no difficulty to talking to people about it. And
Hmm.
uh with the other side of people, I don't get that bad traction. I think that they, when they see my content, it's so honest and innocent that nobody bags on it. If maybe I haven't put that much traction on that, the where I want to stir the pot or whatever, and being more bold about it, it's coming from a caring, loving heart, to where, and going back to our back in the football days, when you and I would have those conversations where I may have not known who you are and inside, but I'm going to give you who I am, to saying, dude, you're safe with me. You're comfortable, you can be comfortable with me. You can share whatever, because I'm going to be there for that person. And if this isn't like, you know, I'm going to pick you up as a friend and we're going to do all these things. It was just a caring, loving personality that I have for others. If you're hurting or if you're going through some stuff, again, I want to help you get through those trials or those storms of things. And then when you know going through and catching a ball and getting a touchdown, I want to celebrate with you, because that makes me happy and glorifying that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing on this earth, to helping others get to where they need to be. And it fulfills my soul that it can get to somewhere.
Hmm.
It can get to somewhere even better, because if you get to a negative mindset of that, and I'm not saying, oh, mindset this, mindset that. If you get to that negative mindset, you're not going to achieve or get close to where you should be. Not saying that the avenue of going to God, but I'm saying if there's a place for you, and there was somebody to guide you to, hey, let's do these routes, right, and whatever, and then next thing you know, you catch a ball. You see the transition in that, where he's getting it, he's starting to understand it. And that, for me, it just gave me goosebumps just thinking about that process, because that little tiny journey of learning it to where you caught it is tremendously big for
Hmm.
some people. And that is a good story in itself, to understand in a bigger picture of what could transpire down the road for what I'm trying to do.
And spiritual stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
I do remember we had a few days where you would help me, you'd stay after practice, sometimes a half hour after practice,
Hmm.
to help me figure out routes and stuff.
Hmm.
And there was one session, I do remember this specifically, this one session. It was the weekend before, I think the second game for that season was the very first season.
Hmm.
And I knew I wasn't going to be playing simply because I was not up to par yet on the team.
Hmm.
But you this is what you told me. It's like, well, that's because you're not going to play. Don't mean you're not going to play. I was like, what? I was like, what do you mean by that? Like, it's like, yeah, just because you're not going to play doesn't mean you're not going to play, because you don't know what's going to happen in the game.
Right.
The entire team could get wiped out by injury, and you're the last guy to step on the field, and you're going to have to step on the field. So just because you think you're not going to play doesn't mean you're not going to play.
Hmm.
And you drove that home from the very beginning of the after practice. And so what it did for me was it made me say, okay, so I have to be the next man up. You never mentioned the next man up theory to me that you better be ready. It was more of a, I'm willing to help you regardless of whether you play or not. And for me, that was big. It wasn't like you were investing in a superstar. You weren't investing in somebody that was known on the team. You were investing in and don't take this wrong, but you were investing in a nobody. You were investing in somebody that nobody else would, literally nobody else on the team were like, oh, he's just I would call me like, oh, he's a sympathy hire kind of thing. Cause I begged Mickey to be on the team, like literally begged that man. I don't even know if you know the process of me getting on, but it was a begging process.
Hmm.
And, but when you came to the point where you were helping, it was not about my status on the team, and it wasn't about my status as a person. It was the fact that you got to see somebody needing help and you were helping.
Hmm.
Um, this project that you have going, and I do call it a project because I do consider everyone a work in progress, but also a project that each of us has to put a hand to.
Hmm.
Um, but this project that you're working on, um, where do you see it in 10 years? And I know you don't want to quantify it like that, but I think you kind of can anticipate, based on what you've already accomplished, where this could go. What do you see as a goal for, and I don't mean by number, but I mean by impact for this program?
I think when I think about that, it's to that, if I can make a difference through, obviously you start small, right? You start
Mhm.
small, and then you get the smaller crowds. You want to get through the social medias. You want to do all that kind of stuff, because I want this to get to a bigger standpoint of talking more about it being, and what's funny about all this too is that I I'm a very shy guy. I like to talk more in person, and being in front of the camera and doing all that kind of stuff is not difficult, but it's a challenge,
I can tell.
sometimes.
I can tell. Yeah.
I'm not usually like that, but
Mhm.
eventually I'd love to talk to more people about it on the social medias, to where once I do that, I think the audience will start to fulfill it more. I think they'll start to see the bigger picture of what I'm trying to do, and I think it will start to waterfall or grow into the idea of what I'm trying to do there. So, I mean, sky's the limit in a lot of ways. I have a lot of ideas, and I have a lot of things that I'm wanting to put down on it, and we can discuss that down the road as well. Of what I'm trying to do with this brand, because for me, it's not just the brand for me. The brand for me is my story for them to relate to me,
Mhm.
so they can understand the process that everybody's going through.
Right. Right.
And so, I want to get my story, or my perspective of life, to where you go through hard times, and there's a lot of other people that have gone through harder times than I have. And if I can still relate to some of those people somehow and change their life, and having the gospel behind me, I think that it's just going to be something where I want everybody to understand my journey in this, for everybody to just come to Christ. And
Hmm.
that's the whole thing. Originally what I was doing with this at the beginning, because this has been, gosh, it's been years since I've started it. And I sat on this for about 6 months before I kind of pulled the trigger on this kind of thing. And it was supposed to be more, and it kind of still is. I want to get a hold of everybody, not just either the young group or the older group or my age or anything like that. I want it to be a surrounding of people to have relatable, because sports kids having adversity through kids through hard times, either off the court or on the court or on the field, whatever.
Hmm.
And saying, okay, so you're having trouble on the field, or you're having trouble at home, express yourself, understanding, for having the solution for you, saying, don't feel sorry for yourself, let's get going, let's get moving. And I want them to see I want them to see the bigger picture of that part.
Yeah. And I think it eventually will, because like I said, you're making an impact even without knowing you're making an impact, because I don't think you knew anything about how much impact you had on my little old,
Mhm.
Lincoln life. But um that was part of it. I've always wanted to thank you for that opportunity that you put forth for me, even though it was Mickey that put me on the team. I didn't really feel as though he was the head coach. To
Mhm.
me, it felt like you were more my coach, simply because we interacted so much on a teachable basis.
Mhm.
um, if you had, before we close it, do you have any advice that you would give people? One, so it's a twofold. It's two questions. What
Mhm.
advice would you give people, if you had just 2 minutes to share with them something to get either out of a rut that they're in that they think they can't get out, and what to do to get out of that, and where can they find you on social media?
I think when people kind of get down on certain things of what you're going through, I always go to the Bible, to figure out, okay, well, if I'm going through a hard time through, um, uh, you know, uh, I don't know, maybe relationships or certain, certain, just an example, look it up, look into it, and I guess the transition to doing so, that's the whole process that I'm wanting them to understand.
Dan, yeah.
Yeah, of that. And again, it's 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 not about me, this thing.
Yep. Hmm.
It's about you figuring it out in a productive way, in a Christian way, and not even that, in a sense. I mean, that is it. But I'm saying, if it could be like a physical issue or certain like that, it's not like you can't do that. Okay, so maybe your knee hurts, or your shoulder hurts, or whatever. And okay, so then let's look that up as well. And I'm not saying that can be Christian based of a physical standpoint, but if you're hurting and you're complaining and you're doing all this kind of thing, I think you can still connect. Okay, well, if you're hurting, let's pray about it.
Right, right. Take
Let's
it to the author. Yeah. Yeah.
absolutely, man. And then from there, you can get answers, you can get prayers answered, you can figure it out. And I love it where, you know God doesn't just do miracles, he sends people in your life to be a miracle.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I think that that's an amazing quote that I've heard as well. With, if you can't, if there isn't a miracle, be one. And I actually heard that from Tim Tebow. uh,
Yeah, yeah.
and but or was it? I can't remember if it
I've
was.
heard him say it before. So
Yeah,
either you got it from him or he got it from somebody, but I have heard him say that before.
yeah,
Yeah.
and so, but I think that it just comes within within of yourself to develop that invincible identity and the identity in Christ to become who you're supposed to be with God.
Right. Right.
So, and I mean, that's another thing where my progress in this journey um, uh, for me is trying to get in the right direction with this brand because it's just the brand right now, but I'm wanting it to be more for the whole standpoint of invincible identity and my brand, my personal brand. I want this to be my personal brand, but I'm also wanting to put my name behind it as well. So you're not only getting the invincible identity, you're getting me.
Right. Right.
And that's huge for me. This is so personal for me that I'm wanting to get that out there to people to saying this is all it. You know,
Hmm.
if you get this, you get me. You get me, you get this. And
It's trustworthy because you have Christ. Yeah. It makes sense.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. I have a back plan, you know,
Hmm.
of if you see me, you see him, and if you see him, you see me. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah,
That's what he said. He said that the world might see him through us, right? So that's if that's the goal, then you're on track to do it.
yeah,
Um, I do. So you're on Instagram just by your name. Is that
mhm,
is that correct?
yes,
Okay. So
and
for anyone that's looking, you can just find him at Chris_Peterson_9. Just make sure you go check him out. Follow him on Instagram for sure. Are you on any other platform?
I am on uh, TikTok. I am on Facebook. I have a Facebook page and a Facebook group, and they're all Invincible Identity. You'll see my face on it. And then I do have Twitter X. You know, I have that as well. But I getting into
Breaking into social media now.
yeah, that's the trick for me of putting out more content for
Hmm.
that. And I do have a website out there as well, and that is invincibleidentitymindset.com, and you can check that out as well. There is a shop now button if anybody's interested in getting some type of t-shirts or merch on that. But eventually, I'm going to have my own shop store in that website.
Gotcha.
And but there's a lot of information, not only about me but about what I'm trying to do. There's the talk, contact us, tell us a story, all that kind of stuff for the website. So
Bet. Awesome. This has been amazing, man. I do, and like I said before, that we in the back area, I do want to have a good nice sit down, even if it's not lunch or coffee or something with Jed, so we can one reminisce because y'all may not be reminiscing the same as me because y'all got rings, but I'm talking about just reminisce on the fact that we are now, and how we met is also a God thing. Um, and any help you need with social media, because I've been on it now for a little bit. I'm not savvy, but I'm up there now with the knowledge of what it takes to get things off the ground. Any way I can help, I'll make sure I help you out. Um, when I put this out, I'll have all your stuff loaded in so they can find you, hyperlink and everything. So
yeah,
if we can get you some traction, because what you're doing is needed, especially in the young generation, because they don't have this positive influence. They have a lot of people telling them everything that the devil wants them to do. And in this day and age, we need people who know how to interact with them, are willing to interact with them, and can get their ear as well as their heart. So I do commend you for doing what you're doing, brother. And it's been an honor knowing you in this life. I think
absolutely,
God brings people into your world for a reason, and you were a very valuable part to my history. And so I wanted to thank you for that. I will be in touch with you, and don't be a stranger.
absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, and I'm just truly blessed to be in part of your life as well. So thank you so much.
You are so very welcome.
Hold tight the dreams, for if dreams die, rely on yourself and no way